Welcome to Living with Reality, a podcast featuring archived teachings and modern conversations with Dr. Robert Svoboda, brought to you by the Be Here Now Network. Living with Reality explores Ayurveda and other wisdom traditions of India, which Dr. Svoboda has been studying for nearly 50 years. For more information, please visit BeHereNowNetwork.com/Dr. Svoboda. That's DrSvoboda. Hello, and welcome to Living with Reality with Dr. Robert Svoboda. I'm Paula Crossfield, your host and Dr. Svoboda's business collaborator. And I'm here with a new episode of the podcast on Jnaneshwara Maharaj, who is a saint from Maharashtra. And Dr. Svoboda talks all about him, tells stories around his work, and specifically his interpretation, his teachings around the Bhagavad Gita. So I hope you enjoy this episode. If you'd like to study with Dr. Svoboda, he has many courses on various topics from Ayurveda to Jyotisha, very specific topics like Saturn, Rahu, karma. So do check it out. It's at Dr. Svoboda, DrSvoboda.teachable.com/courses. And you can find so many courses, over 200 hours worth of content there that you can check out. And if you are interested, there is also a free ebook that's on the topic of fate or free will. It's quite a robust book. It's about 50 pages long, totally free. The best way to get this is to go and follow him on Instagram. His handle at Instagram is Dr. Robert Svoboda, DrRobertSvoboda. So you just follow him there and you go into a message and type ebook with no dash, just ebook, one word. And you should get a message back that will help you to get that for free. So do check those two offerings out. And meanwhile, please enjoy this episode on Jnaneshwara Maharaj.
Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. This year, 2025, marks the 750th birth year of Sant Jnaneshwara, the most beloved saint of the state of Maharashtra. I regard myself as being extremely fortunate to have spent 6 years at the Ayurvedic College in Pune. And Pune is 21 kilometers away from Alandi, which is where Jnaneshwara Maharaj went into Jeeva Samadhi. He went and sat in Samadhi, and the cave that he was sitting in was closed up. That was in the year 1296, but he was born in the year 1275. I moved to Pune to start my Ayurvedic studies in May of 1974, 1 year before the 700th birth year of Jnaneshwara Maharaj. And I regard myself as being extraordinarily fortunate to have been taken out to Alandi very shortly after I got to Pune. So I have been able to have a relationship with Jnaneshwara Maharaj ever since that time. He was technically speaking, a member of the Nat Sampradaya, but he produced what many people believe is the first commentary on the Bhagavad Gita that was not written in Sanskrit. And in my opinion, it is still the best commentary on the Bhagavad Gita for many reasons, not least because he gives a very clear and detailed explanation of how to awaken Kundalini if you are of a mind to do so and you are fit to do so and it is the right time for you to do so. But there's much more in the Jnaneshwari besides that. And it is a book that is relatively easily available in English. You can, in particular, find it under the name of Jnaneshwara's Gita. His name is spelled differently by different people. Jnaneshwara's Gita will be spelled Jnan, Jnaneshwara, but sometimes you'll see it written Dnyan. Sometimes you'll see it written Gyan. It's all a matter of transliteration. The title, the actual title of the text is the Bhavartha Deepika, the light on the meaning or the purport of the bhava. And bhava, of course, can mean many things. In Jnaneshwara's case, it meant both the knowledge of reality, of how things have evolved, that's also bhava, but also the state of devotional absorption, which is also your bhava. Jnaneshwara was one of 4 siblings, and they were born to a couple who lived in the town of Awaken in Maharashtra. Jnaneshwara's father was of a spiritual bent, and it is said that at a certain point he went off to the city of Benares and took sannyas. He became a renunciate, even though he was still married. And apparently he did not tell his guru that he had become a renunciate. And so when the guru happened to pass through Awaken and met Jnaneshwara's mother, the guru said to her, he blessed her by saying a traditional blessing at that time, Ashtaputra Saubhagyavati Bhava, become the mother of 8 sons. And Jnaneshwara's mother said, well, that would be great, Maharaj, if it were not the case that my husband took sannyas and became a renunciate, and you happen to be his guru. And the guru said, what? And he went back to Benares, and he found Jnaneshwara's father, and he said, you didn't tell me you were married, and therefore you cannot take sannyas because I have just blessed your wife to have a bunch of children, and you've got to go back there. And though Jnaneshwara's father was not that happy, he went back anyway, and there were the 4 children. And the Brahmins, this family, Jnaneshwara and his siblings and the parents, they were all Brahmins, but the other Brahmins said, oh my God, you were a sannyasi and you have now come back, and therefore all of your children are sannyasi putras and you're outcasts and you can't be part of our community anymore because you have performed horrible karmas, and go away. And so the family was troubled for quite some time, and the parents didn't know what to do. So at some point, they happened to go to Nasik, which is a very holy city. It's one of the 4 cities in India where the Kumbh Mela happens. It happens in Prayag, Haridwar, Ujjain, and Nasik. So they went to Nasik, and on their way back, there was a terrific storm, and suddenly a tiger showed up and dragged away the oldest boy, whose name was Nivrittinath. And everybody was very upset, but of course the tiger had taken him away, and they didn't know if there were more tigers around, so they hurried on back to home, and they were all very miserable. And the tiger dragged the boy away, and then the tiger took the boy to where the tiger's cave, and then the tiger turned into a Nath yogi. And he said, don't worry, I'm not actually a tiger. It turns out I am Gaininath, and you have to be initiated by me and join into the Nath Pantha. And that's what happened. And Gaininath was the disciple of Gorakhnath. In fact, Gaininath was actually a small figure made out of clay that Gorakhnath, when he was still a boy, accidentally brought to life with the Sanjeevani Vidya. And so Gaini went from being a clay doll to being a human being, and then was initiated and became a siddha, became a great transcendent spiritual being. And of course, Gorakhnath was a disciple of Machendranath, who was, of course, a disciple of Dattatreya. And so the Dattatreya, who is a revered figure in all of Maharashtra, was clearly directing the development of this entire story of Jnaneshwara and his family. So Nivrittinath went home, everybody was happy, you're not dead, the tiger didn't eat you. And Nivrittinath became the guru of his three siblings, Jnaneshwara, Sopan, and the youngest, who was a girl named Muktabai. And and then the family was thinking, well, maybe the Brahmins will accept us now because Gaininath is a great yogi, and he thought we were okay, but the Brahmins said, no, you're still outcasts. And then the parents got all despondent, and then they jumped into the Indrayani River and drowned, thinking if we're out of the way, the Brahmins will probably allow us, our children at least, to come back into the community. And it was a very hard time at that time. And the kids all got together and they decided we should we're born Brahmins, we should attempt to fit into the community if they'll let us. If not, so what? But we should try. So they went to the city of Paitan in Maharashtra, which is a place that was well known even now, but especially back then, for being the place where if you had any kind of doctrinal question, you would go, because there were a bunch of clever people there. And they went there and they said, here's the situation, and we would like for you to let us back into the community. We're behaving like nice Brahmins now. And and all the Brahmins said, I'm sorry, you're still not fit. And it was at this point that Jnaneshwara said, there was a dialogue with some of the Brahmins, and Jnaneshwara said, the Vedas are not limited to Brahmins. The knowledge of the Vedas is available to everybody. And one of the Brahmins said, do you mean even to that buffalo that is being beaten by its master over there? And Jnaneshwara said, not only is that buffalo, but everything. So Jnaneshwara walked over, put his hand on the head of the buffalo, and the buffalo then started to recite the Vedas in a deep voice. But that, of course, also didn't impress the Brahmins. And finally, the kids said, screw it. We're not going to bother with you anymore. And so they had various other exciting adventures. And Jnaneshwara composed his commentary, the Bhavarta Deepika. He also composed a wonderful poem that's much shorter called the Amritanubhava, which means both the nectar of devotion and it also means, or the nectar of experience, rather. It also means the experience of nectar. And it's available in translation, and it's a beautiful explanation of the paradoxical nature of reality that is simultaneously reality being unitary, one without any kind of qualities, and at the same time being dualistic, Shiva and Shakti, with every quality. So these two sets of realities are intermingled with one another inherently and concurrently, and it is paradoxical to the human mind, but that does not make it any less real. So Jnaneshwara also wrote a poem of 65 verses called the Changdev Pashashti, and it was dedicated to Yogi Changdev. And Yogi Changdev was a yogi who at that time was 1,400 years old. And when he was a young man, he had learned that he would only meet his guru when he was 1,400 years old. And so he thought, well, that's a problem. That's problematical, because suppose I die and accidentally I'm thinking of the wrong thing when I die, and I get reborn into some family that's not interested in yoga, and then maybe I will not be in the right place focused on my guru at the moment when the guru shows up. That's not going to work for me. So he decided that better just to stay alive. So every 100 years, death would come looking for him. He would go off into Samadhi. Death would not be able to find him in his body. That moment would pass. He'd come back down, live another 100 years. Once he got to age 1400, he thought, okay, I've had enough of this now, but I need to find my guru. How am I going to do that? I've been waiting all this time. I've not come across anybody who is my guru. Then he heard about Jnaneshwara Maharaj and his siblings. And he was, he thought, gosh, it's possible, there's 4 of them, that one of them may actually be my guru. So he sent a message to them saying, you know, here, I'm Yogi Changdev, and who exactly are you? And Jnaneshwara sent back this poem of 65 verses, the Changdev Parsheshti. And Changdev read it and he thought, whoa, this may well be what I'm looking for. So Changdev decided that I've got to go and visit them. So, you know, by age 1400, he had accumulated a whole bunch of disciples. Most of them had died and possibly gotten reborn repeatedly. We don't know. In any event, Changdev marched out on riding a tiger, and he had his cobra as his lasso, and he was proceeding forward at a stately pace, and he had all of his, who knows how many hundreds of disciples behind him, and they were all shouting, Jai Shankar, and they were waving their yoga dandas in the air, and they were thinking, our guru is a great guy, and he is marching forth, and so are we. And of course, they're inside thinking, we're great guys because our guru is a great guy. So, Jnaneshwara and his siblings had developed all kinds of siddhis, all kinds of extraordinary capabilities. And one of them was clairaudience and clairvoyance. And the clairvoyant among them noticed that Changdev was on the way to meet them. And they thought, oh my gosh, Changdev ji is coming. He's 1400 years old. We're just all teenagers. And we need to really, he's going to be our guest. And Atiti Devo Bhava, you have to turn your guest into God. And therefore, we need to go and welcome him. So they happened to be sitting on a wall. So one of them, probably Nivrittinath, Nivrittinath said, well, I'm just going to make the wall fly into the air and we will go meet him. So they just sat on the wall and the wall jumped into the air and it started to fly in the direction of Changdev. So here's Changdev moving forward, la, 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 la. And here he and all of his disciples see this wall flying in their direction and on which there are 4 teenagers. So this is not the kind of thing they had expected to see, naturally. So once the wall arrived and sat down, he saw that the 4 teenagers were there. And it took probably just, a few milliseconds or something for Changdev to recognize that his guru was Muktabai. And so Muktabai, who was 14 at the time, Changdev was 1400 at the time, it would appear that Muktabai's sole reason for taking birth was, other than to have satsang with her brothers, was to act as the guru of Changdev Maharaj. So that was taken care of. And Changdev was very pleased, and Muktabai was, everybody was pleased. And the Jnaneshwara completed, it is said, his Jnaneshwari in the year 1290. That's the tradition. That would have been when he was age 15. Another part of the tradition is that when Jnaneshwara was around age 19-20, he and his siblings and several other saints went on a big pilgrimage throughout Maharashtra, throughout other parts of India. And Maharashtra is very fortunate to have a number of saints who are who practice ordinary professions. There's Namdev, who was a tailor, and Gorakumbar, who was a potter, and Chokamela, who was an outcast, and Sautamali, who was a gardener. And there were all these, and there were, they focus all on devotion to Vittala. Vittala is the form of Vishnu who is most worshipped in the Maharashtra and Karnataka area. And Vittala is means Vishnu standing on a brick. And Vittala, it is said, arose because there was a devotee named Pundarika. And Pundarika was a bad boy, and he used to lie and cheat and carouse and gamble and drink and do all kinds of negative things. And his parents didn't know what to do. They were at their wits' end until one day Pundarika met a saintly person who said, Pundarika, you are on the wrong path. You need to change. And Pundarika said, okay, I have been ignoring my parents, but it is also said, just as the guest is God, Atiti Devo Bhava, also mother and father are God, Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava. And therefore, he started worshiping his parents as God, and he did it so well that he attracted the attention of Vishnu. So one day, during 1 year, during the rainy season, Vishnu thought, Pundarika is such a great devotee of mine, I am going to come down and I'm going to give darshan to Pundarika. It was the rainy season. So Vishnu came down and Pundarika was worshiping his parents. And Vishnu said, Pundarika, I am the blessed Vishnu. I have come here to give you darshan. Come outside and you will be able to have darshan of me. And Pundarika called from outside, O blessed Vishnu, it transpires that I am worshiping my parents, who I have taken as my deities, and I cannot interrupt that, and I'm sorry, but as soon as I finish, I will definitely come out. Thank you very much. And Vishnu thought this was very cute, but he thought, I need to point out something to Pundarika so that he will be, we need to get, have the drama go on a little more, deepen it a little. And he said, Pundarika, as you know, I am the blessed Vishnu, and my feet are regarded as being lotus feet. And I am out here. It is the rainy season, Pundarika, and there's a bunch of mud here. And do you really think that as your guest, my lotus feet should be in the mud? Now, Pundarika was in a quandary. What do I do? Because I have to worship my parents, but the blessed Vishnu, who is my guest and also my deity, he is in the mud. Fortunately for him, there was a brick in the house. And so he took the brick and threw it out the handy open window and said, Lord Vishnu, here is a brick. Please stand on the brick and I will come out and have your darshan very soon. And so when Pundarika finished worshiping the parents, he walked out of the hut and there was an image of Vishnu standing on a brick. And that image has been worshipped ever since in Pandharpur, which is the home of Pandarinath or Vittala. And that Vittala was worshipped by Jnaneshwara and his siblings, is worshipped by many of the saints in Maharashtra, and is still worshipped today by the Varkaris, who are a sect that are very much devoted to both to Vittala and also to Jnaneshwara, to other great saints like Tukaram Maharaj, who was a grocer and who, like Elijah, did not die but was carried up into a heaven by a fiery chariot kind of thing. And the famous dhabawalas who carry hot lunches to at least 500,000 people in South Bombay every day, they are all devotees of Vittala as well. So Vittala is still very much a central figure in the world of Maharashtra even today. So Jnaneshwara was, and his siblings were moving around, and they were looking, it was not the rainy season, it was a hot day in the summer. It was the afternoon, everyone was thirsty. They came to a well. there was a bucket, but there was no rope. So how are they going to get water if there's no rope? So Nivrittinath said, don't worry. He used his yogic power. He grabbed the bucket. He flew down to the bottom of the well. He filled the bucket. He brought it back up, and everybody drank. And then they were still kind of thirsty because there were a bunch of them. And he said, nope, I'll just fly back down. And then it is said that Namdev, who was also a great saint, said, no, why should you go to any more trouble? Let me do it this time. And Namdev started singing, Vittala, 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 Vittala. And Namdev was just singing, and all of the saints were listening to him. They were getting into their own bhava, their own mood. And soon, all the animals in the neighborhood stopped whatever they were doing and started to listen and get into that same mood, that same bhava. And pretty soon, all the plants in the neighborhood started bending towards Namdev because they wanted to get closer to the source of that miraculous music. And it didn't take that long before the water in the well got so excited and wanted to get closer to Namdev that it came up out of the well, and it was collected in the bucket, and everybody drank, and everybody was satisfied. Their thirst was satisfied. And then Jnaneshwara said to himself, wow, I've seen the perfection of jnana, of the tantras and the using magic and all this stuff. And I've seen the perfection of the perfection of bhakti. I've seen what happens when you become so overwhelmed by bhakti that the entire environment around you becomes overwhelmed by bhakti. What else? What more do I have to experience in the world? And it is said that there was that caused him to decide to take Jivan Samadhi. And so it is said that he took Jivan Samadhi in the year 1296, and that his body remained there for about 300 years before Eknath Maharaj, who was born in the middle of the 16th century, and who was also a great saint, before Eknath Maharaj was visited in a dream by Jnaneshwara. And Jnaneshwara said, Eknath, nice to meet you. I'm enjoying being in Samadhi here. I've been in Samadhi about 300 years, but there's a root that's growing around my neck, and at some point it's going to choke me. So, if you don't mind, please come and take the root away. So Eknath came to that area. Of course, where Jnaneshwara had been lost. And so Eknath got to near that area. Jnaneshwara appeared to him in his astral body. Eknath found Jnaneshwara, removed the root, and Eknath sat and discussed with Jnaneshwara for it is said 3 days. And Jnaneshwara asked Eknath to restore the Jnaneshwari to its original text because it had gotten corrupted over those 300 years. So thanks to Eknath, we have the accurate version of the text. And Alindi now is an extremely busy place, like so many places in India. But back when I went there first in 1974, and then I went with Vimalananda in September of 75 for the first time, after which Vimalananda and I visited many times. You could actually sit and do puja to the stone that is above the chamber where Jnaneshwara's body is still located. And that was always a very blissful thing to do because there would be the puja, and then we would have a kirtankar come and sing, and there was a wonderful bhav, a wonderful mood created. Among the things that Jnaneshwara wrote was the final few verses of his commentary to the Bhagavad Gita, and those verses are called the Pasayadan, the gift of divine grace. And I'm going to read the English translation. You can read it yourself on the siddhayog.org website, the gift of divine grace, because Nivrittinath said to Jnaneshwara, Nivrittinath, Jnaneshwara's brother and guru, had requested him to write the commentary, to write the Jnaneshwari, the Bhavartha Deepika. And Jnaneshwara had done it. And Nivrittinath said, thank you for doing it. Now, what would you like? Now you've done this for me. What can I do for you? And Jnaneshwara said, this is what I would like you to agree to. So I'm going to read to you the Pasayadan. It goes this way. May the self of the universe be pleased with this sacrifice of words and bestow his grace on me. May the sinners no longer commit evil deeds. May their desire to do good increase, and may all beings live in harmony with one another. May the darkness of sin disappear. May the world see the rising sun of righteousness, and may the desires of all creatures be satisfied. May everyone keep the company of saints devoted to God, who will shower their blessings on them. Saints are walking gardens filled with wish-fulfilling trees, and they are living villages of wish-fulfilling gems. Their words are like oceans of nectar. They are moons without blemish and suns without heat. May these saints be the friends of all people. May all beings of all worlds be filled with joy, and may they worship God forever. May all those for whom this book, the Jnaneshwari, is their very life, be blessed with success in this world and the next. Then Nivrittinath, the great master, said that this blessing will be granted, and this brought great joy to Jnaneshwara. So Jnaneshwara could have asked for anything, but this is what he asked for. Nothing for himself, and everything for everyone else. Lokas samastas sukhino bhavantu. Or, and, as they say in Maharashtra, Pundalik varde Hari Vittala Shri Jnanadeva Tukaram Pandarinath Maharaja Ki Jai. Thank you, Jnaneshwara Maharaj. Om Namah Shivaya.